The 1216 death of King John, a turning point in English history. King John of England, also known as John Lackland, is a monarch who remains infamous for his tumultuous reign, marked by military failures, strained relationships with the English barons, and disputes with the church. His death in 1216, during a period of civil war and foreign invasion, was a significant turning point in English history, with far-reaching consequences for the monarchy and the legal development of England. Let's explore the circumstances of his death, the state of the kingdom at the time, and its aftermath. The reign of King John, a prelude to crisis. Born in 1166, John ascended to the throne in 1199 after the death of his brother, Richard the Lionheart. His reign was fraught with challenges from the beginning. John inherited a kingdom that was in many ways already on the brink of crisis. His father, Henry II, had established a vast Angevin empire that stretched from Scotland to the Pyrenees, but this empire was beginning to fracture. One of John's earliest missteps was the loss of the majority of English-held lands in France, particularly Normandy, in 1204. This military failure weakened his credibility and fostered resentment among the English nobility. John's heavy taxation to fund his efforts to reclaim these territories only deepened the animosity between him and the barons. He levied unprecedented taxes and fines on his subjects, often arbitrarily, leading to widespread dissatisfaction. Moreover, John's personal behavior, marked by cruelty, suspicion, and distrust, alienated many of the powerful magnates who had supported him initially. John's most significant confrontation, however, was with the Church. When Pope Innocent III refused to ratify John's candidate for Archbishop of Canterbury, John retaliated by seizing church property, leading to his excommunication in 1209. Although he eventually reconciled with the Pope in 1213, John's conflicts with the papacy and his barons severely damaged his authority. The road to civil war. The tensions between John and his barons came to a head in 1215 with the signing of the Magna Carta, a document that sought to limit the powers of the monarchy and enshrine the rights of the barons and, by extension, English subjects. While the Magna Carta is often hailed as a cornerstone of constitutional governance, at the time it was more of a temporary truce than a transformative document. King John, who had no intention of adhering to its terms, sought papal annulment of the charter almost immediately after its signing. This led to the First Barons' War, a civil conflict that saw many of the English barons turn against John, even inviting Prince Louis of France to take the English throne. Louis landed in England in 1216 with a sizable army and the support of disillusioned English nobles, threatening to unseat John entirely. By this time, the kingdom was in a state of chaos, with many castles and towns falling into the hands of rebel barons and French forces. The final campaign and the death of King John. As John struggled to maintain his hold on power, he embarked on a military campaign in late 1216 to regain control of rebel-held territories. During this campaign, he suffered a series of personal and strategic setbacks. One of the most famous, albeit often exaggerated, incidents occurred when John attempted to cross the tidal marshes of the Wash in East Anglia. It is said that during this crossing, the king lost much of his treasure, as carts carrying royal goods and wealth were engulfed by the rising tide. This loss, although not catastrophic in itself, symbolized the collapsing fortunes of the embattled king. Shortly afterward, John fell seriously ill, likely due to dysentery, a common ailment during medieval campaigns. Some chroniclers suggest that his illness may have been exacerbated by the stress of his ongoing military failures and the pressure of the Civil War. He retreated to Newark Castle in Nottinghamshire, where his health rapidly deteriorated. On the night of October 18 or early October 19, 1216, King John died. He was approximately 50 years old. His death marked the end of a reign that had been fraught with discord, defeat, and controversy. While some chroniclers have suggested that his death brought relief to the kingdom, it also plunged the country into a new period of uncertainty. The aftermath of John's death. At the time of John's death, the kingdom was still in a state of civil war, with much of the country under the control of rebel barons and French forces. However, John's death unexpectedly shifted the dynamics of the conflict. His 9-year-old son, Henry III, was quickly crowned at Gloucester Cathedral under the regency of William Marshal, one of England's most respected knights and statesmen. Marshal, as regent, played a crucial role in stabilizing the situation. The barons, many of whom had fought against John, were more inclined to negotiate with Marshal and the young king than with John himself. Marshal's decision to reissue the Magna Carta in Henry's name in 1216, albeit in a slightly modified form, helped to ease tensions. Over the next year, Marshal and his loyalists successfully rallied royalist forces, defeating the French and rebel barons in several key battles, culminating in the Battle of Lincoln in 1217. By September 1217, Prince Louis had agreed to a peace settlement and withdrew from England, effectively ending the First Barons' War. King Henry III would go on to have one of the longest reigns in English history, and the reissuance of Magna Carta under his rule set the stage for its evolution into a foundational document of English law. Legacy of King John's death. The death of King John in 1216 brought a measure of closure to one of the most troubled reigns in English history, but it also marked a turning point. In many ways, John's death allowed for the resolution of the civil conflict that had racked England during his final years. The fact that his death allowed his supporters to rally around his young son meant that England avoided a prolonged occupation by a foreign power and the permanent displacement of the Plantagenet dynasty. Moreover, the reissuance of Magna Carta in 1216 under Henry III's name, and again in 1217, helped solidify its role as a key document in the development of English constitutional law. While John's reign is often remembered for its failures, particularly in foreign policy and governance, his death indirectly led to the strengthening of legal norms that continue to resonate in modern democratic societies. Thus, the death of King John in 1216 was more than just the passing of a controversial monarch. It brought an end to a period of personal rule characterized by crisis and conflict, opening the door to a more stable and legally defined system of governance. While John's legacy is largely negative, the circumstances of his death and the ensuing events had a lasting impact on the history of England. Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more engaging content about the most transformative moments in medieval history. Stay curious.